Hello, in this video I'm going to talk to you about how to assign a peer review in Canvas. So first of all, it's very important that students have a clear due date for submitting their drafts. They must submit their drafts before you can assign the peer reviews. So let's imagine that we've given students the due date of Monday at midnight to submit their drafts. It's now Tuesday morning and I want to assign peer reviews. Importantly, my students cannot peer review each other's drafts until I assign peer reviews. So it's important to remember in our calendars or schedules that we need to log in and assign peer reviews after the due date of submitting the draft. So now it's Tuesday morning, they submitted their draft yesterday at midnight, and I want to assign peer reviews. So what I would do is go ahead and open the assignment. Okay? And I would find a screen that looks somewhat like this. So either in this three-dot menu or down at the bottom, we have these three options. And sometimes it appears in the three-dot menu. Sometimes I have to scroll down to see these three options. We usually open Speed Grader, but in this case, we want to open this link that says Peer Review. All right, and then you're going to find a list of all of your students. Okay, at this moment, none of my students have been assigned peer reviews. So in this case, we see Mary Angela, and again, this can be confusing to read, so I want to be clear that this is Mary Angela, the person, and underneath it is whose paper she has to read. This is Malin, the person. Underneath it is whose paper Malin has to read. So I have two options for assigning peer reviews. Option one is that I can manually choose who reads whose paper. So I can come in here and say Mary Angela has to read Jesse's paper. And once I click Add, Mary Angela is going to get a link in her to-do list, and when she follows that link, she will go to Jesse's paper where she can leave comments. So I can do that for all of my students, making sure that every person's paper or draft is being represented. So I want to make sure that everybody gets comments on their draft. So if I do it this way, you have to be really careful with how you do it to make sure nobody gets left out of the peer review. But that's an option. If you choose not to do this, you have another option, which is just scroll down until you see this screen. And sometimes this appears over on the right side for me, sometimes down at the bottom, but it'll say assign peer reviews. Often the default here is 0, but you're going to go ahead and change it to 1. You could theoretically choose a higher number, but we strongly encourage against that. We have done that in the past, and students have reported back to us that that did not work. First of all, when two students, for example, would look at the same draft, the second peer reviewer would complain that it was too hard to leave comments on a draft that was already filled with comments. So the second peer reviewer, in many cases, felt very frustrated by being the second peer reviewer. The other problem was that students would complain that when they got their draft back, with two sets of comments on it, they felt very overwhelmed by how many comments were on the page. They felt very discouraged by how many comments were on the page. So to keep it simple, we ask that students submit the same draft multiple times and assign one student per draft. That way the student can get, for example, 2 copies of their papers back to them, but only one set of comments on each copy. Okay? So we ask you to assign one peer review. If you change this to 1 and you hit this button, Assign Peer Reviews, Canvas will automatically fill in who's going to do whose paper. So Canvas has automatically assigned this. Importantly, any student who did not submit a peer review will not be assigned any student who did not submit a draft, will not be assigned a peer review. So in this case, Linda did not meet the deadline of Monday at midnight. So Linda cannot participate in the peer review. This is just a feature in Canvas. It's good in the sense that it enforces responsibility and deadlines, but there's no sort of clear, easy workaround. So in this case, it's very, very important that students understand the deadline, submit their drafts on time so that we can assign the peer reviews. Now that I've done this, every student who sees this, every student will see the link in their to-do list that takes them to the peer review that they're supposed to complete. If a student complains that they cannot find the link, remind them that it is in their to-do list. If they insist that it is not in their to-do list, you can push this little button that looks like a bell, and it will remind the student about the peer review. I think what happens is that students sometimes dismiss the assignment from their to-do list and they don't know how to get it back. So if you push this little bell, you will remind them and they can usually find the peer review. So that's just a little tip. Okay, so let's say you had students submit 2 drafts because you want them to do 2 peer reviews. You have to repeat this entire process. Log into the assignment, come down here, hit 1, assign peer reviews, and Canvas will fill it out. Once you have done that, however, you need to compare the 2 lists, because while Canvas usually does not assign the peer reviews in the same order, there have been occasions where the same student is assigned to read the same paper twice. So in this case, we can see that in peer review 1, Mary Angela is going to read Belinda's paper. Peer review 2, she's going to read Sabine's. We want to make sure that no student is being asked to read the same paper twice. If they are, that is something that you have to fix. So let's say I realize that Jessie has to read Anjali's twice. So I want to go ahead and switch these 2 peer reviews to eliminate that problem. So I'm going to give Jessie Janai's paper to read and Jordan Anjali's paper to read just to eliminate that conflict. I would just hit the delete button, the trash symbol, okay, and then I would manually assign Janai, okay, and then I would want to go ahead and delete this one and assign Anjali. Okay. And once I did that and I've compared my 2 lists and I see that every student has 2 different students to review and all conflicts are resolved, then I am done assigning peer reviews. And my students now will all have 2 links in their to-do list to 2 separate papers that they are expected to comment on. All right, thank you very much, and let us know if you have any questions.